before we set this in stone, we have to make a decision, all right? I think we should do it just because we should signal to everybody that this is the future. And tell everybody that in 3 years, we're not gonna come back to try to make a decision, or either we're gonna raise 3% or we're gonna bow out. Because I guarantee you're gonna hear a lot more people screaming at 3%, 2 years down the road. And then it's gonna make it even more difficult. And then we're back to where we were.
We're not necessarily saying wait X number of years. It's just ACTI, especially in the last week, seems like they're in a very uncertain position. So you have
It seems that way, but it's not.
Our state representative, who is one of the, who, whether we like it or not, is a big person that is in the government and can help with funding, is.
So you mean that he's gonna throw his fist because we didn't choose to get a building that's in your county rather than build it at council?
I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm saying it doesn't sound like he's currently on board with the way that ACTI is going, and is looking to do it in a cheaper way. I think that the uncertainty of, we were supposed to have this ablest director that everybody gave rave reviews about, and now that's not happening, and that's going to be, I mean, you guys had to open up twice to just get her, right? You had to reopen the position.
We did. It is difficult to find somebody for the position. There are not many qualified people for it.
It is. So what I'm saying is, and something we see in the line graph that Tom shows us almost every meeting, is that in the last 10 years, we never see a year where there's no tax increase. And what I'm saying is, why not let the money in the taxpayers' pockets now, when there's a period of uncertainty? Why do we need to hold on to that for a year and not let that happen?
Well, we already do.
I think we just need to keep this thing going. I think we just need to say, and we'll start with you, Gene. You want to move forward, you want to sit on, what are your thoughts?
I just think we had so many changes in the last week that I'm not clear. I know we have 180 that we had basically said we're doing every year. I'd like to see what's going to be happening. Very odd.
It has not been hard.
Well,
There are setbacks.
maybe
We will overcome them.
you because you go to these meetings, but for us, everything just seems to be
We will overcome it. We will overcome it. We will overcome it.
I think there's a lot of information that's out there about people that are not involved.
That's not involved. I think there's a lot of people talking out one side of their mouth, you know, and they shouldn't be. And that's just the way it is.
We're talking a lot of money here, right?
We are.
We want to move it forward. Brian, we want, yes, no?
I'll move forward.
Okay. Thank you.
I think that with this current state of things, that this would be a good policy.
I'm in agreement with that.
All right, so you guys,
You know, sometimes you have to have courage in an election year. And I know you all want to be back here, but sometimes you got to have courage to do the right thing. ACTI is the right thing. Now, when we get down to this in a few years, then you guys can come back and tell them why they're getting a 3% tax raise rather than 1%.
Well, Brian, see, it got nothing to do with an election year. I'm not up for re-election. What it has to do with
There
is
are
the
others that are.
taxpayers are sick of being, of the tax and spend that's went on. It's constant.
Okay,
It's constant.
You want to have a conversation, you guys can have
You're right.
it.
I apologize.
All right, let's please keep moving.
so this is the total budget. Each committee member got breakdown of the next two slides. The only thing I'm going to highlight here is the 6.1 million. So the 6.1 million is what we have currently in fund balance for middle school, high school. When we talk to the accounting portions of that, the best accounting practice is to move that to capital reserve to pay our contractors for the portion we set aside. So with this transfer, what I would have is a recommend to transfer up to 6.1 million on an as-needed basis to pay the contractors what we've earmarked to pay them. So this transfer would have no more than 6.1. If we end up not using all of our contingency funds, that would be less than 6.1, which we would only transfer as needed. So if there was an argument's sake to say it was $6 million flat, that 100,000 would stay in the general fund, would not get transferred, and would be back in fund balance. What I don't want to do is have more money go into capital reserve. This is exactly a 1-to-1 and 6.1 million as of the last audit in fund balance for Littlestown High School. This would say up to that amount to transfer and only pay the amount that is charged to us by those contractors.
So you're saying transfer over as it happens, not at one lump sum?
But I want to have the transfer worded that I can do that and not request every month for an additional transfer to say it's up to amount and on an as needed.
As payments are required.
All the payments will be approved, but I don't want to have an approval, standalone approval for this. It would be worded that we can approve it to match 1-to-1 with the payments that are going out the door.
And this is invoices that are coming in for the middle school, high school project. We're
Correct.
not just taking a lump sum of money and moving it to capital reserves for other capital improvements.
No, this
around
is specifically earmarked, this is the way fund balance works, it's specifically earmarked and assigned for middle school, high school to pay those contractors. When I talked to our accounting professionals, they said to remove it from general fund to capital reserve to pay that capital reserve, because it's technically a capital reserve project. It's capital improvement, so it is the best interest to move it there, to pay it there instead of general fund, but it's not technically a general fund. We just housed it in general fund until the point of this time now we're transferring. So it will be a no more than 6.1, and it will be, we expended all 6.1 before payment.
And you'll let us know each month what you moved over?
That will be in Gil's presentation. If we want to have a subcategory to identify that, we can. But that's why this number of the total expenditures does not include, so it's only 42.8, because it doesn't include the 6.1 transfer, because that's going to be as needed and technically fund balance. It's not enough. It's an expense, but it's not. It shouldn't be shown to show 48 million now. It will show an accurate.
And we don't want to move it all into fund balance, beginning to avoid exactly what Nick said earlier. It's not all in there, so whatever's left, if there's anything left, and we have to use it for capital. We transfer it as it's needed, so that it's
Earmark.
correct.
It's just, I have to show it within the budget, because that's how the state requires us. So I just want to make sure that everybody's aware and understands that, because it's a unique scenario to us this year. It will look like the budget's 48 million, but in essence, it's only that 42. because of the way it has to show on the sheet. Everybody's on?
Good.
So revenue, as I explained, these are the increases I showed on the prior slide. This is just showing it in its local, state, and federal portions. Any questions on that? We have more of a breakdown. It's basically the slide I had prior, just showing it one slide.
This is the minimum amount that we would possibly pay.
Correct, so right now, this would have, because that's a 0% tax increase in here. This also, it will fluctuate a little bit because we change staffing, because there is a reimbursement tied to this portion here for Social Security and future subsidies. So this would be reduced because we're moving on positions, so it will change a little bit. Yes, this is part of that hold harmless and showing flat funded upstate and prior year.
That's good.
All right, so the last, there's no transfer, I forgot I had that slide. There's kind of this running right now.
You jumped the gun.
I did. So it's like not to exceed and then as needed basis. So here, this was the comparison if we selected all the budget priorities. So it's showing a $1.3 million deficit last year to 2.4. This singles out the mandated costs. Mandated costs are at 1.76 million. Revenues increased only 1.25, so there's a shortfall of 508 just for those mandated costs, which I equated to a tax rate so you can see what it would be needed if we have to make up that shortfall if there's no state funding here at a local level. So this is more of a visual rather than a request and any means. So same thing with budget priorities, we selected all. Here's what it would have cost to select. We've obviously not selected that. We obviously have cuts in there. So these are just visuals to show this is what it would cost to do some of these items. Skylar was in here saying 1% and then 1% for the other requests, and then about 2%. So it kind of shows you what it would look like when we get to the final budget, some of the requests and what they're tied to. So give you more of an informational, and some of the discussions today, what tax rates was the FPS committee looking to have in, is it a 0, 1, 2, up to 5.2? Just for brevity here, we'll just keep it at 0 and move forward. Here's just the increases that taxpayers would feel on 280,000 average home, 300 and 400,000 at 0 to 5.1%. The last thing I'm going to touch on real quick is pending budget items. So some of the large items that could affect future presentations is healthcare. So we have the same situation as we do with liability insurance. We have a third party go out and market those. They are also seeing a 10% increase. We have that in there, 10% increase in our budget. They will come back to us in April to say, is it less or more? And we will change budget numbers as them. So I can't guarantee it's going to go down, but we're just hoping that based off of their recommendations. The same thing with liability insurance. When I said the $8,000, some of that's inflation, some of that's just going to be an increase in cost. We already talked about budget priorities, transportation RFP. Like I said, we have not had transportation outsourced before, and some of the uniqueness we have here of what we can, hopefully is going to be some cost savings. That expense allotted to transportation services right now in the budget is allotted as we keep current practice as is. So we keep internal people and we outsource portions of it because we have no other numbers to provide. So it's an as-is number, so that will drastically change post-RFP receipt. I just want to let you know that's going to change a lot. Same thing, we talked about Harrisburg, has a lot of cyber charter reform talk right now. If they would change that, we would more than likely, based off of their initial discussions, we would see a significant savings in that. But right now, we don't have any information other than it's going to be more of the same.
So anyone listening to this should go out and contact their legislator about cyber charter reform for public schools, state laws.
They don't have a timeline for that, or you don't know anything?
It's not even a committee yet.
Well,
Their timeline is their budget cycle, so June 30th. If it doesn't make it, next budget cycle. So, on the revenue side, we talked about a real estate increase. If the board wants to raise revenues, real estate tax for
I have
that.
a question about that. As they build new houses, do you have that built into the budget for?
So that portions that you saw in the revenue for local, that is assessments going up and or homes being built and added to our tax rolls. So we do incorporate that in every year. In addition, if we raise taxes, we would also funnel back in.
But
So I update
you
those
don't have
numbers.
any houses, like if they said we're gonna build 30 houses next year, you don't have anything like that.
So we only add them as the tax rolls increase. So
So
whenever
a lot of
they're,
houses could be added
correct,
next
so,
year,
so
we
as
don't
long,
have.
until a tax bill is produced, we don't add it. Homestead farmstead, in the governor's proposal, he had a significant increase to homestead farmstead. That'll be part of the budget process. We won't know that. That's typically in May. When we get those numbers, we can analyze that part of the May presentation. As I talked before, state budget, governor's proposal included about $585,000 back to the district. A lot of that $501,000 is ready to earn. Very little basic ed subsidy and special ed subsidy is a unique thing this year. And obviously we pay attention to news that a lot of it could happen in federal reform, and we're not sure how that's going to trickle down here to local level. So that's to be determined if anything happens there. Change orders, I'm just going to say if there's any questions on those have just been approved since last time, information only. And timelines we kind of discussed as is, as it kind of came up. So April's going to be somewhat of a RFP month, and changes we made here tonight reflected, and some more discussion. May will be continuing discussion with potential, with proposed budget approval, and then obviously June will be the final approval, and then RFPs scattered throughout those May and June months.
And trying, hopefully, by the April meeting, we'll see more of that ACTI, either way.
You will.
No, I'm serious.
I am too, you will.
Good. We'll know better now.
That
We will.
concludes my
Okay,
presentation.
thank you. Any other business?
Yeah,
You
and
like-
that's a good thing.
Motion to adjourn. adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, have a second?
Second.
Adjourn.